Welcome back, team. Today we're going to be reviewing somebody who's done the impossible and hit rank 1, 2, and 3 simultaneously playing top lane. Viper is a former pro player, now streamer, who is the uncontested best solo queue player in NA. So today we're going to be reviewing him in detail, including his champion pool, his laney phase, and all the things that he's doing to be the difference maker in his solo queue games. So if you want to see what he's doing better than literally every other player on his server, then let's get started. Starting off with the champion pool, which is heavily built around his main champion Riven, one of the best solo queue top lane champs of all time, and definitely S tier on this patch. But one thing that really impresses me about the way he picks his champion, even though he has a bunch of different options in his champ pool, which we're going to go through shortly, he picks Riven almost every single time that it's up. And especially recently, he just picks it every single time, if it's not banned, regardless of his role or his matchup. He plays it jungle, mid, AD, carry, and top. Haven't seen a support recently, but he probably does as well, and he's just a really good example of champ mastery being key here. You don't hear him going, they have a poppy support, I can't play Riven here, or this top matchup sucks. He just picks Riven every single time that it's not banned. And I really like this as an example because a really common issue I see students having is, my champ's not that good into their comp. I need another champ in my pool. And they spend a few months learning a second champ instead of just learning how to play Darius into range or Riven into disengage, whatever the answer to those champions are. If you can overcome that and have a positive win rate, not winning every game, but a positive win rate in hard scenarios like Viper does, you're going to be in a very, very comfortable position. Now, he does have other champs in his pool because he's so good in his region that Riven gets banned very often, and the core pool is range top laners basically. Vayne, Kayle, Jace, and Akali sometimes. Akali mainly for a bit AP or certain matchups, and I'm going to include Akali as a range top laner here, pretty much the same thing. So you can see even when Riven's high volatile champion's gone, he always plays champions with high volatility. Vayne, Jace, and Kayle, the game is kind of played around you in a way. Of course, if you're in an easy matchup like Kayle versus Gragas or something, you can get away with 1v1ing, but a lot of the time these champions force the game to be sort of played around them. So that increases his agency in the game. And you can see if we include the other roles here, his champion pool is actually very concise. Best solo queue player on his server, but he mainly just plays these same 3 to 4 champions, regardless of his role. You can see he plays Riven AD carry, he plays Riven mid, and when it's banned, kind of between Kayle and Akali, stuff like that. Sometimes a bit of Jace, but he doesn't really mix it up. You don't see him randomly playing Vi jungle or anything like that. Sometimes he cooks around, of course. Everyone's a human. They're not going to just play the same 3 champs 100% of their games, but I would say most of the time, he keeps his pool very, very concise, and in most seasons, it looks very similar to this. So really big fan of that, and for support, he plays Senna just to have a bit more carry agency, I'm guessing. He doesn't want to play an enchanter and rely on his AD carry. Now for his ban, one thing that I really like, he doesn't actually ban a Riven counter. He doesn't care what matchup he's in. Most Rivens ban Renekton. He bans Shaco at the moment. I'm guessing that's because there's a lot of Shaco one-tricks in NA, especially Shaco top ones. Probably doesn't want to play against that. Pretty boring. I think before he used to ban Nunu off the Nunu one-trick, so he pretty much just bans annoying one-tricks because if they're on the enemy team and he bans a one-trick, it's basically a free win for the most part. So I'm guessing that's why, but that doesn't really matter to me. You don't have to ban Shaco, you don't have to ban whatever. The thing that I like, he's not scared of his matchups. He's very confident regardless of what he plays up against. As long as Riven isn't banned, he's going to take it. So it's a really, really good example. Champ mastery is key. And he does have a champ identity here. Yes, he's not playing 3 or 4 champs similar to Riven, but when Riven's off the table, Vayne, Kayle, Jace, you can see him spacing being very important. So any kind of skill he develops on them will transfer in some way. He's not going from Riven to Fiora, Jay, a bunch of different champs. He kind of keeps it concise. Again, he does cook a little bit sometimes, but this is his core pool. So I'd say the main takeaway that we can learn from his champ pool is being able to play your champion in hard games is pretty much the most important thing. No matter whose champion pool it is, no matter what rank student asks me, what they should build in their pool, I always say you need one main champ. You need a main champ where you're confident in pretty much every matchup and every scenario. Yes, you prefer some over others, but as long as you can pick it. If you can slam Riven and they go Renekton Poppy and you don't care, that's when you're in a very, very favorable position. If you can pick Darius and you verse like a Kennen and you're still chilling, that's when you're in a good position. Try not to solve your champion pool holes or your gameplay, champion pool holes with another champion. Solve it with gameplay. This is a really good lesson to take here. Moving on to the laning phase, starting with this game here, playing Riven up against Cassante. And I really wanted to start with this one to showcase his playstyle overall, because you're probably assuming, Riven with a good win rate, he probably just flips the early lane and gets a bunch of solo kills, mechanics maxing, but that's not really the way he plays. So you'll see straight away, he's even warded the blue buff here, and that'll come into play later on. So level 1 lets the wave settle and tries to catch Cassante between the wave and him, because if you fight him down here and you don't aggro the casters at all here, you can see it's a lot easier to zone XP. You're not going to take any minion aggro as well. So trying to zone XP off the Cassante here. Cassante did manage to get all of it, of course. He's not a noob, he's playing an OP champ, so he's going to be able to collect it. But good idea there. And then slowing down his push. So here he went for a 3-wave crash. Because he spent a lot of time zoning Cassante here, and he didn't bother the wave at all, it's really easy for him to go for a 3-wave here. So just last hitting very slowly, not letting Cassante walk up. If Cassante walked up level 1 verse 2, of course he would get obliterated there. And then wave 3, so he bursts this wave down. So one shots the wave. So 16 out of 18, he only missed a 2 from zoning, trying to zone level 1, and then runs into here. So the reason this is important, he's playing up against Talia jungle. So he warded their level 1. If Talia started blue, he would have tried to kill her level 1. If she doesn't start blue, that means she's puffing up. So he can come back around this timer after crashing wave 3, which is why he crashed wave 3 and not 2 as well. Because this gives you a massive timer to roam, where if you crash wave 2 and the wave's already kind of bouncing out, you don't really have much time, and it doesn't match with the Talia's 3 camp time. You can see she did 3 camps and now she's on these camps. Perfect timing for Riven to collapse onto her. But she's probably used to this playstyle from him, so back straight down to bottom. But that means she's really behind. She's a farming jungler, and she can't kill her camps right now. While Kha'Zix gets to full clear, she just has to sit around on her hands and complain about top gap. So it goes back to top, or we'll go back to his point of view, because Talia didn't fall for it. But you can imagine 99% of junglers would probably die there. Goes back to top, and keeps up his good CS. Another thing we'll touch on as well in this video is his CSing. Always very, very consistent. So just getting this wave in. And again, not letting this Talia really play the game. Scrying blooms to take out the ward, so Talia can't see if he's going back to top or going back through here, and then just goes back to top. So Talia just cannot farm this blue, cannot farm this Grom. So this playstyle is a lot more impactful than trying to play for a 1v1. Yes, if Cassante walked up level 1 and walked up level 1 vs 2, he would probably play for the kill. He does punish their mistakes, but because Cassante was respecting and not doing anything, and a lot of students ask me, what do I do versus these Malphites and these Cassantes that just sit back and do nothing? This is kind of what you want to do. You want to use your pressure to be impactful. And this is up against a challenger Talia. Imagine up against a worst jungler, they would have died to this ages ago. So even now, she's just so far behind the Kha'Zix, she can't really farm anything. Actually, she's actually ahead, so jungle gap from the Kha'Zix. But in theory, right? Kha'Zix had a lot of free time to use that. Scratch the wave, goes for a proxy, so utilizes proxying really well. Proxying is the best way to get a high tempo recall without losing anything, and it buys you more time. He killed his wave from up here, not him, so there's an extra 15 or so seconds to invade the Talia and not let her play the game. Back for the next wave. So 52 CS here, you can see 10 per minute. We'll put it on his vision here. Goes on to Talia and gets the kill here. So he gets the 1-for-1 and Cassante flash and Talia flash. And the thing to keep in mind is before he traded 1-for-1, he got the wave. So he killed the wave here. He sort of knew from the TP and from Kiana not being here that they were coming. So he tried to cheese, executed it really well as well. But even though he died here, he's slowing down Talia, farming junglers clear by a lot. He wastes Kiana's time, chunks her, and wastes 2 flashes as well. He doesn't really lose that much either. If we go back to see how much he actually missed from that, it's going to be like 1, right? He missed 1 CS from that play and completely took over the early game. So really high quality def. Now from this point, nothing else too exciting happens. I just wanted to showcase a good example here of how he's able to gain a pretty big lead in terms of the overall game without actually killing his opponent or playing too volatile or taking any major risks here. So I'll show you what I mean by lead here. So it goes back to top, clears the wave. He's still looking to punish Cassante if he walks up, but Cassante's playing extremely passive, does not want the smoke here. So clears the wave without missing really much CS, goes around the back, another proxy, and again, we'll put it on his vision here, always looking. Right now, his mid lane is getting caught out and killed, so he's in the area. If this looks good, if they come through here, if Talia goes through here, we can punish. He's always looking for these opportunities, but there's no play, so eventually he goes back to top here. Because in this situation, there was a bit of mid gap, so he did not want to get sucked into it. This is a really hard skill to develop, by the way. It looks so simple in the game, But this is probably one of the biggest things I see students struggle with, saying no to bad fights. Reading if the fight's good or bad in the moment. Right now when we pause it, it's so easy. My mid's dead, so the fight's bad. But doing this in a game, as you know, where you feel that pressure to help out your team, is definitely a lot harder. But you can see not only does he not get sucked in, he still does kind of as much as possible, chunk the Kasante, zone him out, and doesn't lose any HP himself. So he knows this is losing, he just sort of plays it out. Goes back to top, doesn't even get chunked or anything. So now you can see 95 CS to 56, and he hasn't actually killed this guy. Kasante's actually 2-0 due to his teammates kind of, inting a little bit, and that one good diff we talked about. But other than that, he's mainly just gained this lead through pressuring the jungle, proxying, really good base timers, all that good stuff. And you can see 10 CS per minute, 30-something CS gap, and he's made Talia's life very difficult in this game. Just because she did gap the Kazakhs a little bit doesn't mean, Viper didn't put the pressure onto her and put his jungler in a good position here. Now, that was a good example of the optimal playstyle up against a tanky meatball, especially those players that sit 2 screens away. But what about up against the most volatile champ you could think of? So this lane is playing up against a PTA Ignite Fiora, definitely a first kill, equals your opponent's Nexus is exploded type of matchup. So level 1, you can see him, he actually plays it quite respectful. Fiora's level 1 with PTA Ignite, that's a very important distinction, is actually stronger than Riven's. So he's playing very, very respectful here. Grasp Fiora is a little bit different, but PTA Ignite Fiora, you need to play respectful here. So he got as much CS as the Fiora allowed him, and now he's sort of chilling. So he tried to Q back to dodge the Fiora Q, but Fiora had good discipline there. This guy's a Fiora main, pretty sure. He's just slow pushing at wave 2. So you can just see it chilling as much as he can. So he's willing to give a bit of CS here. So the Fiora probably will get most of these, 17 out of 18. He had to give a few. But in these matches where you don't get push early game, especially if they're forcing tools like Fiora, you just have to. That's just part of the game. So he picks up his CS here, gets almost all of them. So you can see drops 6 out of 18. That's just the reality of playing a volatile matchup like that if you don't get the level 1 prior. So slow pushing this one. Now the important thing here you can note, even though Fiora's back now with item advantage, Riven's still full HP. This is really important because if he made a volatile 1-2, if he got low as well, and Fiora just based after that wave 3 and then Fiora's full HP with longsword versus a half HP Riven, it's very hard for Riven to crash this, but because he managed to stay healthy and still has his potion, he's in a really good spot now. So looking to go on to him level 4 versus 3. But you can see he's not overdoing it. He's ready to punish the Fiora if she slips up. Right there, if Fiora went in, he was ready to go, but Fiora clicked back on it. He's all about punishing the mistakes of the opponent, not really over-forcing, making it too volatile, anything like that. Especially in this situation, a big reason why he doesn't want to make it volatile, we will put it on his vision really quickly and see this guy right here, the jungler. One thing I'm going to touch on later on, kind of the main takeaway section of this video, is this guy very rarely dies to ganks. And that might seem weird, he just kind of died to one last game. But what I mean, he doesn't have many bad deaths to ganks. I've watched all of his games recently, and I actually can't recall a time where he died to a gank. That was just dumb, brain off, not thinking about jungle. He's very, very aware of what the jungler's doing. So you can see deep ward here, plays accordingly as well, full HP. No real way he can actually die to a gank, even if Jarvan tried to come through here or anything like that. So cleanly crashes the wave, and tries to get his recall off, abusing the little pocket of fog there. Really good little trick. Holds the W, waits out the parry. You see, he holds the W the whole time. Really good discipline. Knows the only way I lose this is if Fiora dodges my W with Q, what kind of buffers through it, or if she parries it. Just holding the W. Even after she used parry, holds the W a bit more. Really good to see. Really ignite. Change CC's W off the Q3, so it can't miss. Important note as well, there's a small chance Fiora could flash, not like react to the Riven W, but flash out of it. So chain CC's the W off the Q3. Maybe there's a little bit of time to dodge it there, but still, big fan of that. Beats him up. Plays around his cooldowns. Kite away, and then flashback auto Q. Nice clean solo kill. So to me, the most impressive part's not actually the mechanics. Even though he did play that well, everyone in Challenger, maybe not jungles or supports, but every top lane in Challenger has pretty good mechanics, even though his might be a bit better. I think that's not the most impressive part. I think the way he played that early game plan, conserving HP early, playing around the Jarvan perfectly, and then going on the timer where there's no chance he could die to a gank, and is very favored for him to win the all-in. I think that's the most impressive part to me, personally, especially on a matchup like this. Ignite Riven versus Ignite Fiora, you can't think of a matchup where your discipline would go out the window, even any more than this one. So back to lane, level 6 versus 5. Of course, he's going to be very confident here. Brutalizer building into his Axiom. So just forces in this wave. And likely going to go eat some fruit. Fruit into Scuttle Crab. Yeah. Maximizing his CS yet again. There we go. 7 versus 6. You can see it's very rare that he takes a volatile trade or he gets chunked, low HP, anything like that. Playing it quite reserved here. Looks backwards. Waits out the parry before he uses W, and then nice, clean, easy solo kill. So you can kind of see here, the way he played matchup to matchup, very different, right? When you have high enough champion mastery like he does, of course you're going to have a good matchup understanding, but I like that he's not just playing the matchup as if it's a 1v1 custom game. He's really taking into account the jungle. Even though these matchups are so tempting to make it volatile, he only played aggressive at a time, where there's no way Jarvan could interfere, and when Jarvan was in the area, he got his vision down, he's staying healthy, all that good stuff. So he is pretty much in a situation where he was unpunishable, even in a matchup this explosive. And you can see one more kind of funny kill, just to end it. Diana had to catch mid. You can see after proxying as well. So he has a big timer, yet again to use. So he sees with this timer, okay, Diana overstayed a little bit, let me punish. Another clean kill. And then base in the game is of course going to be over with this lead. Next up, we have the Gragas matchup, so another champion that all of us top laners love playing up against, so we're going to be figuring out how he gains a lead up against this brick wall of a champion. So you can see, tries to punish him at level 1 when his E is on cooldown, so far so good. Wants to try, and goes on him again. So really trying to abuse the fact that he wins long trades, make it hard for Gragas to CS here. So he's got a ward in the try, and he knows Rengar is clearing down from what happened level 1, so he feels very confident to make this lane volatile. Rengar can't really level 3 gank through here, because you're getting pushed, you're going to see him trying to enter the bush. Ward in here, so he's pretty much ungankable in this game. So that's why he's really confident to make this one volatile. And you can see here the execution. If Gragas E's me, I'm going to flash, because if Gragas E misses, it goes on full cooldown. You can see ability cooldown reduced by 40%. If Gragas hits by somebody, he dashes in here, so he flashes away, and then goes on to and burns the Gragas flash there. Really, really okay with making it volatile. And then slows down his push, goes for a 3-wave crash. So big fan of the 3-wave crash here, as you can see. Which is why he always tries to fight, maybe not always, but most of the time, tries to fight his opponent out here, where he doesn't bother the wave. Really important. If you want to do a 3-wave crash, you can't just fight somebody here and hit them with your autos and your Riven Qs. It's going to piss off the wave too much. So you fight some out here, where he barely draws any minion aggro. So 3-wave crash, and takes a reset here. This is a really, really high quality base timer. The reason why is because he doesn't have the resources necessary, no potion, no flash, half HP, versus the sustained King Gragas, to handle Gragas pushing him in here, basing and TPing. If you think about what would happen in the future from now, there are two scenarios. Either Gragas would push this wave in, and base and TP him, and Riven stuck there, never able to recall again, or when Gragas crashes the wave, Riven one-shots a wave of bases as well, which would be the best thing to do. But then Gragas will TP back in, kill the next wave, and Riven will lose 6 minions. So, if he bases now, just sort of anticipating, I don't really have the resources necessary, or yeah, resources needed to handle this bounce back and push it back out, versus this TP Gragas. So he chooses to base here. Really, really high quality base timer. Even though in that second, he didn't really need to base. In the future, he's not going to get that chance, so he chooses to base now, and he only gives up 3 CS. For a no TP champ, definitely not the end of the world. Also chooses not to tank the wave. You can't really freeze and kill a TP phase rush Gragas, and if he tanks the wave, he's probably going to lose 80 to 100 HP, so no real point there. And as we saw before, he mainly likes to play for proxying, attacking jungle, all that stuff. So it goes on the Gragas here. But Gragas, of course, unpunishable champ. one-shots this wave, and proxy time. Actually chooses not to. Reason why, he knows Rengar's going to come. So most of the time, Jungler's second spawn of camps is going to come around 4:15 to 4:20-ish. So that's why he's warding on this timer. Anticipating the second Krugs. That's also why he doesn't proxy him, because he just knows Rengar is going to be coming back on this timer and just double full clear down. So really good vision and also good decision not to proxy there. So we'll go back to this trade. Waits for his level 5. Gets level 5 on that Q. Buffers W through the Gragas E. And now while Gragas' E is on cooldown, goes for a trade there. But Gragas spaced it out well, so he just disengages. So you can see not always passive, especially this Gragas is playing quite aggressive as well, putting a bit of pressure onto him. One-shots the wave, bases, and takes a small loss here. Always willing to take these small losses. If he stays here, he is in a very, very painful position. With Ryze getting pushed, with ulti, with Gragas just being able to poke him and play for the dive under tower, with this much HP, it's way too hard for him to play out this crash here, if he chooses to stay. So, willing to take the small loss of like 5 minions, was it 3 minions of XP and gold, to not get dove. Slow push this one, hard push next one, and going to proxy. But with Viego here, uses that opportunity. Nice clean kill on the Gragas. Chunks the Rengar, just gets away and back to top. So you can see, even before that Gragas kill, right? Let's imagine the Gragas didn't die here. Still in a very, very favorable position. But he put himself in that situation where either he could proxy, he could choose the Gragas with Viego. So his lane state's always been quite solid here. But I like this example as well compared to the others, because I think this Gragas played decently well. He was no pushover, but he's still able to create himself a really consistent baseline here. Crashes the wave, grubs, back to top. Gets the wave. Stun flash instantly, and he's chilling, right? 88 CS, knows he's going to get dove on this timer, so fully backs out here. Again, no real risk here. So this example you can see, nothing too flashy, just really, really solid understanding of when he needs to base and what will happen to him if he doesn't. The 3 times he based, here, here, and here, he probably would have got really heavily punished if he chose to stay. So a really good example of high quality base timers, even though all 3 times he did recall, he did have to take some form of loss there. It's definitely worth not taking a big loss and getting dove or anything like that. Now, a common theme we've seen in the matchup so far is he has a relatively good game plan for any lane that he's playing and doesn't make it that volatile. Versus the Cassandra, you can see invading, high CS, high HP, versus the Fiora didn't take any risk time to the gank, you know, all that good stuff. But that doesn't mean he doesn't play aggressive when the opponent slips up. In all those games, he's up playing up against challenger players, of course. They're not going to make it that easy for him. But I want to showcase an example here of what happens when they do mess up. So, he's a bit late to lane from some level 1 action up against his Jax, so Jax does have priority here. So you can see, trying to stay healthy, trying to maintain good farm, exactly what we've seen so far. But look what happens when Jax makes a mistake here. So here we go, he goes in for the farm, goes on him, Jax pops the E and plays too aggressive. So you can see he started walking forward and actually just shits on him. So you can see, just because the game plan that we've seen so far is very, very calculated, discipline does not mean he plays passive. That's not the case. I guarantee if he was playing up against worse opponents, he would be killing them level 1 to 3 every game. It's all about punishing mistakes, and if they're not making any major ones, playing to the limits of the game, of the matchup there. So we'll go through this again. So maintaining good farm, just trying to pick up as much CS as he can, gets level 2, auto W, baits out the Jax team. So right now, if Jax was walking away and used E2 and ended the trade in CC, if this guy had watched my Jax guide, then it'd be done. The Riven would actually be a little bit lower than the Jax, the trade would be fine. But because Jax was walking up like he owns the place up against Riven, and Riven's walking forward, it's over. As soon as he stopped to auto hit, that one greedy auto attack, now he's in range for Riven to fight him back. And I get why the Jax did it. wave was in his favor, stuff like that. But you're playing Grasp up against Last Stand and Conqueror, so you're at a big disadvantage here. So you can kind of see when his opponent does make a mistake, he is ready to punish. It just doesn't look that obvious until they actually do something like that. So yeah, really good takeaway. His overall game plan is very disciplined, high CS, good crashes, good wave control, being involved in what the enemy jungler is doing. But if the opponent slips up, uses the abilities when they shouldn't, or overcommits for an all-in that's losing, you can see he's running 40, knows, okay, I win this, no way Jax can beat me here. So it's important to have that confidence as well to punish your opponent when they do slip up like this Jax player. Now, there's one thing that Viper does better than most top laners, even in Challenger, and that is his CSing. But instead of going through 2 or 3 examples of him just proxying and eating camps and be like, yeah, that's how he gets good farm, I don't think that's very useful. Instead of that, I'm going to be breaking down the 4 main reasons why his farm is so high every game. And these are very important concepts that you can apply to your own game. So starting with the first one, he takes very low risks in the early game and he very rarely dies to ganks. This is so important. Pretty much every top laner that I watch when I go through their VODs, and I'm trying to showcase good examples of them laning, there are a lot of games where they're dying to ganks, myself included, to be honest. But I went through pretty much all of his games that he played recently on his rank 1, 2, 3 climb, so his past 30 or 40 games on this patch, and I don't think he died to a gank once. There probably is 1 or 2 mixed in there that I missed, but it's very, very rare that he dies to a gank on Riven. I mainly just watch the Riven ones. He might die more on Kayle, of course, that'd be expected, but I almost never see him die to a gank at a bad time. We had that one in our laning example. I wouldn't say that's dying to a gank. I would say that's creating a bunch of pressure and trading 1-for-1. That was perfectly fine. It's very rare that he's just like trading with someone and the jungler walks in and collects a free kill. That almost never happens. And that's a very, very hard skill to learn. But the reason why he doesn't die to a gank is because the way he's trying to play the game, you can even see right now on our screen, double warding up the jungle, eating camps, proxying, spreading his power around the map instead of just tunneling on the 1v1. He probably gets less solo kills than a lot of other top laners in Chow. Maybe not, he plays Riven, but it's not really his main focal point. You can see he's maintaining good farm, proxy camps, proxy at the first move on the play. That is sort of the way that he plays the game better than most. And that's a big reason why he has good farm. Because you're not just flipping and tunneling on killing their opponent 5 times and making them quit the game and dying to ganks along the way. He almost never dies to a gank. And this isn't just good for high farm. This is good for winning games as well, because currently jungle is the most broken role in the game. If you feed the jungler, they're probably going to carry the game with that lead a lot of the time. But if he's somebody that creates a lot of pressure, playing champs like Riven, playing champs like Vayne, and not giving anything over to the jungler, you see in the game versus Talia, she was top most of the game, and she didn't really get anything. If you can create that much pressure without giving anything, that is way more impactful than just winning your lane 1v1, and he still, as we can see him, gains a notable lead over his opponents. Now, number 2 is his proxying. He consistently proxies before recalling. So especially on an OTP champ, every time you base, you're probably going to miss a couple of farm. And if you don't perfectly cleanly crash the wave and they make it hard for you, you might even miss 3 or 4. But if you proxy before basing, you're almost never going to miss any, especially on a champ like Riven, maybe a champ like Garen, where you can get back to lane very quickly. Riven dashes, Garen Q, that kind of stuff, then you're not going to miss much farm most of the time you won't even miss any. So because he's always looking to proxy, he's not scared of it. And again, good understanding of where the jungler is means he knows when he can and when he can't proxy, like that game versus Rengar jungle where he didn't die to the gank there, where if he went to proxy, he definitely would have. So proxying, of course, is not only going to give you perfect farm, because you're 1v6, you're probably not going to miss any CS by yourself, I would hope not. But your recall is going to be higher quality. You're going to get back to lane faster, higher tempo, I should say, and not miss any farm. Now, the next one is very minimal time waste. And the rule I really like to teach to my students that he applies quite well here is once the play is done, you base and go back to side or just go back to side as soon as possible. He is very proactive. He looks for a lot of players, but he doesn't waste time. He doesn't kill somebody and then helps his team kill Dragon, hits the mid-tier or anything like that. Boom, plays done, boom, straight back to side. That's how you manage to make plays and not miss much farm. Because you can imagine if you just kill a wave, run straight to mid, get a kill and then run straight back to bot, you're going to lose a lot less than run to mid, kill someone, stand there hoping more people feed, hit the mid tower. And that's what I see 99% of the time when I'm watching a student with low farm doing stuff like that. A lot of time waste. His time waste is very, very small. Of course, when there's like a soul or an elder, he's not going to be as efficient with farm. But you can see for the most part, once the play's done, straight back to side, the lower amount of time that you waste, the more time you're spending farming waves, but he's still making plays. He's not just sitting in side lane doing nothing. It's a really important distinction. And then the final one, low amount of unnecessary death. So early game we talked about he doesn't really die to ganks that much. I would just say across the whole game he doesn't really die that much. His average deaths for a Riven, a full damage kind of glass cannon carry champ, with the short range, his average deaths is extremely low. And that just including team fighting, including not getting caught in side lane, all that stuff. The reason why his farm is high is because his deaths is low. That's such a big thing. And that's something I touched on in my CSing guide. Every single time, pretty much a student has asked me, my CS is bad, what's happening? And I just skim the RPGG, 9 deaths, 11 deaths, 13 deaths. That's why your farm is bad, because you're dying to ganks and losing 2 waves. You're dying once inside, losing 2 waves. So you can imagine if you can get your average deaths very low, on top of not really wasting much time in the mid game, your CS is going to be great. It doesn't even matter if you miss, a couple every single wave that comes in. If you can fix those 2 elements of your gameplay, your CS is going to be high, and that's something Viper does very, very well, very consistent. He doesn't really have that many unnecessary deaths. Of course, he's not perfect, and there might be some games he's not trying as hard as others and has more deaths, stuff like that. I'm not saying he's a robot that has 0 deaths every game, but consistency is the most important thing, and that's something he does extremely well in those aspects, and that's why his CS is so high. Next up, we're going to be breaking down a bunch of different examples and where he was the game changer in the games that he played. And what I mean by that is pretty much every league game that you play, more or less, even in games that are really hard or your team is struggling, there are going to be a couple of moments that really change the momentum of a game. Even when you're winning, there are going to be these moments for the enemy team. And when you're losing, there are going to be a couple of opportunities that open up to you if you're playing consistently. If you're not randomly dying, if you're maintaining a good farm and you're ready for them, there are going to be these moments that if you take them, you can actually turn the game in your favor. So I'll showcase an example here before we expand on that. So in this game here, you can see he's got a 30 CS gap. Everyone has been in this situation as a top laner. I'm up against a tank, I got a nice CS gap and a plate, but my team is getting shit on. My whole team is struggling here. Not the worst thing in the world. They're not getting obliterated, but I'd say his team is relatively blind. Down a couple kills, down 1k gold. The momentum is in favor of the enemy team. So you can see here, proxies the wave, has his 1 item spike as well, really wants to utilize that, and comes down to the second dragon. There's only 12 minutes into the game. K'Sante might be able to get, a couple plates and couple waves if this play takes too long. So rocks up here, you can see him, gets here first, goes on to Leah, and kills their jungler here, and also onto the rest of them. This was a game-changing moment. If he didn't do this, and his team lost the play here, if they lost his fight, lost the dragon, the game would be heavily in favor of blue team here. But because he found this opportunity, based on being in a good position himself from how he played the lane, proxying before the second dragon timer, to give himself this opportunity to actually roam down, he was ready. And again, he's not going to commit to every single play that he sees. If the play looks bad, so let's say right now, his bot lane just randomly got caught out and got double killed, right? He would just go back to top, proxy him, and look for a future opportunity, another game-changing moment in the game. Just because you gave yourself a timer to move, proxied 1 wave or crashed a wave under tier 2, whatever, doesn't mean you're going to get the play guaranteed. It's not going to always work out that way. But if we put it on his vision here, you can see him. He's really spiked. His team is spiked as well. They're all 1 item. So he felt very confident because he was the difference maker. He's here before K'Sante. That's why this play is favorable, because he was here before K'Sante. And even before he came, actually killed people, the pressure that he put from being here as a strong Riven makes it very uncomfortable for the enemy team. You can see really hard for them, which lets his team move in and get dragon. So not just the kills as well. So these moments are definitely going to open up to you if you're looking for them. And I'll show another one from this game. I think it was around here. So again, not trying to kill K'Sante, not trying to ego, not trying to get chunked, anything like that. This is on his vision, by the way, crashes the wave and starts moving. If this looks good, I'm committing. If it looks bad, back to side. That's what I teach my students. That's what you can apply, because you're not going to instantly have Viper's eyes and know what play is good and know what play is bad straight away. But if you want to practice the skill, that's how you do it. He's in position right now. Again, if bot lane got double killed and they sat back here full HP, or they sat back here full HP, back to top, kill the wave, look again. But he sees them popping their hidden contesting dragon vision. So you can see opens up for this opportunity. And yes, he's playing it well as well. But that's a given in Challenger, in my opinion. Most people on their champion, unless they're off-roll or support mains, they're going to play the skirmishes well on their champion. The most impressive thing is how he's consistently ready for these opportunities here. Now, to have the skill necessary to find these game-changing moments consistently, you need to be very good at anticipating what your opponent wants to do. If you know roughly what they're going to do, you can make a plan to counter that. So I'll put it on his vision here. Dragon is up in 50. So in this situation, Dragon's up in 50. It's very likely the enemy wants to play for this. Also, you can see his teammates are playing topside here, and we don't really see them popping in. So he anticipates, he's pretty sure that they are going to come in and play for Dragon Vision. So you can see he goes here, and he actually waits a pretty long time, because he just knows they will come here. They're going to come to get vision at some point. They're not just going to sit under tower, scratching their asses. They're going to come in there and play for this dragon. So waits here for a long time, waiting, and here they come for vision. Goes in straight away, because Talon has sweeper going. So you can see here, he's popped the sweeper, so goes in straight away, because the sweeper will show you the outline, and goes on them straight away here. So you can see it's jump on them, burns the jungle Talon ulti, Gragas flash ulti, kills the Gragas, and of course, playing the fight well as well. But I was really impressed by that kind of foresight to know they're going to come in. I swear, even good players that kind of know, they're going to come dragon, and they sit here, they get bored after 5 or 10 seconds and go straight to the bot wave here. I think most players in this position would go to bot wave from base. And then like the top 1% of players might sit here and then go to bot after like 10 seconds of getting bored. But he just knows they're going to come at some point. They have to come and get vision on Dragon. There's nothing else they can do. Even when he saw Nautilus, he's still waiting in case Talon comes and picks up a pretty big game-changing play in this opportunity. Yes, they have a gold leader here. But you can see kills are even. This is Dragon Soul for the opponent. So he just knows 100% it's Dragon Soul. They have to be here. So even though he waited there for like 30, 40 seconds, might be a little bit boring. He knows eventually they'll come, and if he gets to jump on them, even if Gragas didn't die here, right? Let's say Gragas wasn't a Shaco one trick, and he played it perfectly. He's got the Gragas ulti, the flash, the Talon flash. His team is still in a very favorable position to win this Dragon Soul fight. So definitely a big game-changing moment in this game here. And for our final example, I wanted to showcase a bit of problem solving here. How he completely changed the momentum of the game by fixing a problem they were having. So here you can see the enemy mid is 4-0. Pretty big problem. This assassin mid is probably going to carry the game. He can just roam bottom and farm them for kills. They have no CC down here. He can kill the jungle Twitch whenever he wants. And he can beat Akali 1v1. So even though he's winning his matchup, he's killed him once with a gank, having a good time up here, he knows if I just keep killing Azir and mid carries the game, I'm not going to win this one. So what he does here is he goes straight to mid. And you might just be thinking he's catching the wave, but he stays here for pretty much the rest of the lane. Because he knows Akali cannot handle this guy. Akali should be fine against Azir. He might get shit on if he's bad enough, but he's pretty confident I can do well up against this 4-0, one item at 9 minutes in a Fury. And because he did that, you can see he was in position here. Also cheesing him as he's going through. Okay, they're playing for grubs here. Let me pretend to rotate to them. And then cheesing a Fury in the bush. So they get his flash there as well. And eventually even got a kill pretty short when he goes on Soraka. So kills him. But again, that kill's not always going to happen, right? The thing that's the big learning here is he saw a problem. There's no Fury. There's a 90% chance he carries the game with that lead because I'm just stuck top, fighting Azir. Azir can get pushed. I can't really proxy verse him very easily. So he swaps to mid where he's playing Riven up against Neferi, a much better matchup even though he's behind. So he sacrificed his dopamine of being able to farm this Azir to match Neferi and stop Neferi from just completely snowballing off Akali and carrying the game. Yes, he's still got a roam off when he based, but you can see it's a much better position for his team, for him being mid like this and giving these opportunities where he can be involved in the skirmish. And I talked to one of our coaches, Fodge, a former student of mine who plays against Viper quite often, and he said he's just very good at finding these opportunities. Sometimes he'll roam bottom level 4, roam to early skirmishes, stuff like that. And here's another example of that. He knew that if I stay top, beat Azir, Neferi beats mid, this game will be very, very difficult. Neferi can carry. Me swapping to mid and having more agency on these skirmishes around mid and being able to hold my own 1v1 up against this guy is our best chance of winning the game. Now, to wrap up this video, I'm going to be breaking down the 5 main notable takeaways that are, in my opinion, the main reasons why he has so much success in solo queue. The first one being having one main champion that you can play in any situation. This is completely overpowered, being at the point where it doesn't matter what matchup you're versing, what their jungle is, what the meta is, you feel like you're going to have a good win rate and be able to win more often than you lose in those hard scenarios. That is when you've truly ascended as a solo queue player. This is the biggest barrier that most players come across on their champion. I can't play Darius into range, or I can't play Silent or KO into these 3 or 4 matchups, champs like that. It's once you get to that point where you don't really care, you feel like you can outperform your opponent, or at the very least, have a good performance overall, consistently across 10, 20, 30 games in those hard scenarios. That's when you're going to be in a very, very good situation in terms of your solo queue journey. Second one, extremely consistent early game playstyle. More about high CS, jungle tracking, attacking the enemy jungle, being at skirmishes on time. Way more about that than the trading and the solo killing. Yes, he punishes opponents when they slip up. We saw versus Jax, one mistake instantly kills them, but more often than not, his playstyle, his default versus opponents that they know what they're doing, is to attack the rest of the map, maintain good farm, good base timers. Did we see him miss a base timer today? I don't really think so. Did we see him die to a gank? Definitely not. Definitely this consistent baseline, way easier said than done. Of course, if you just play purely for farm and your opponent's staunching you and all that stuff, you need to know how to trade back and, all that stuff like that. And he is playing Riven, very strong early game champ. If you're playing a champion that's weaker early game, you're probably not going to have perfect farm, and every single base time is probably not going to be good. But you even saw in that game versus Gragas, he had to take some suboptimal back timers, but they were still the best back timers he could have taken in his games. Third one, consistently high CS, and that's pretty much due to the above point. Because he has a consistent playstyle of jungle tracking, and that it kind of applies to the mid game too, he doesn't really just randomly die in side lane, or flash in randomly at a fight, tunneling to kill the AD carry and get blown up trading 1-for-1. That doesn't happen very often for him. Unless it's a high quality death. It's very rare that he dies at a time where, damn it, I lost 2 waves in 2 plates, or in the mid game, dying and losing 2 waves. That is very, very rare. And even if you don't lose waves, just you being dead, you're not farming, you're not pressuring. So that is a big reason why his CS is so high. And having high CS is, of course, a good way to win games. Very rarely dies to jungle ganks. So I'm actually going to touch on this a little bit more. I think this is one of the top 5 most important things, even though it kind of ties into number 2. I'm going to go on this even more because this is something that I personally struggle with a lot. Finding that balance between playing really volatile matchups on champs that I play like Olaf, like Fiora, like Jax. It's really hard to try to squeeze out your opponent and gain big advantages while perfectly tracking and playing around the jungle and all that stuff. I think that's something he does very well. I think he kind of leans more so towards good farm, good back timers and jungle tracking, more so towards trying to punish his opponent and kill them. I think there are some matchups I watch where maybe he could have punished his opponent a bit more and taken a more volatile trade, stuff like that. Every single player makes mistakes, but I would say for his champ pool and just the way he plays the map overall, the way he plays the game is very, very consistent for him. And definitely a really good thing to learn from. Dying to ganks is so bad for the game, not just for yourself, but snowballing the enemy jungler. Then they're going to be favored for the buff 3v3. Then they're probably going to be strong enough to kill mid. They might get their item first in the whole game. They might have their 1 core first and they use that to carry a fight. So just eliminating that kind of default weakness of a player and not dying to ganks anymore. And not just that, he's not just sitting under Tara's Malphite. Yeah, I'm not dying to ganks, guys. He's pressuring, he's playing aggressive, he's actually impacting the map. And while not dying to ganks, that is a big reason why his impact is so high in the early game, even as a top laner, that isolated role. And finally, always proactively looking at the map to punish his opponent's mistakes. It's very little about 1v1, I want to ego and make my opponent go 0-7. There's very little about that. A lot of the high quality game changing plays that he makes is not nice. I solo killed my opponent 4 times, now I can carry the game with my lead. That's not really his formula for winning games. Yes, playing that way is a bit better in lower ranks. In gold and platinum, you should probably just play to kill your opponent 4 times and blow the tower. Of course, if you can learn from what we've seen get good trades and play for kills while tracking the jungler, while taking good base timers, of course, that's going to be really good. You can still learn from that. That doesn't mean you never play for kills anymore. Like we saw when he versus Fiora, when he versus Jax, and they made a mistake forcing onto him. he instantly killed them and punished. But the main reason why he wins games so often, on top of what we've already talked about, is he finds those moments where the AD carry oversteps mid, where the Diana oversteps top for one extra wave, and he punishes them accordingly. He's always very, very aware of what's happening, and he's ready to punish when his opponent slips up, and he can even anticipate when they're going to slip up, based on, okay, this is Dragon Soul, they're going to play for it, stuff like that. They're going to play for the second dragon, I see them moving, and he's always in the right place, right time, ready to punish his opponent's mistakes that way. Alright everyone, that's it for now. I hope you enjoyed the video and learned a thing or two along the way. If there's any other solo queue player you'd like to see me cover next, let me know in the comments below, and make sure you subscribe, ready to go for that next season.